Here with reaction, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. Before we get to anything else, I want to settle a little bit of business here because I don't think some people know how committees work. They usually work together in terms of who's going to ask the questions, et cetera. And it was brought up that you didn't specifically yourself ask questions. And then the question of why did you allow the concession to Hunter in terms of not videotaping it and allow for the second subpoena to be sent that was not afforded, those opportunities not afforded to people like Navarro or Bannon?
Well, with respect to not asking questions, Jim Jordan didn't ask questions either. We work with our staff attorneys. Mine was a top deposer in the Trump Department of Justice. He's better at asking questions than I am, so I want the best people asking questions. So I had my staffer ask the questions that I approved for the first hour, and Jim Jordan's staffer asked the questions for the second hour. So that answers that question. With respect to the video, that was what the Biden team was demanding. They didn't want a video. They didn't want a video, which I think is funny and ironic because they were saying they wanted a public hearing, Well, we're going to have a public hearing, and the American people are going to get to see Hunter Biden in person. And with respect to the second subpoena, when he defied the first subpoena, then that subpoena was expired. So we wanted to get him in for the deposition. I think the evidence that we got is very valuable as we move forward to try to hold this family accountable. So I think what we did was right. A lot of people have criticized, saying we should have taken the deal for this or this, the deal for that. He came in on our terms. The only thing that they got that they wanted was not videotaping it. We've got the transcript. The transcript shows that Hunter Biden wasn't truthful. He accused his former business associates of lying. He admitted that Joe Biden did, in fact, get $40,000 that came from China. So, so many things that we've been talking about in our investigation were proven in the deposition. I think the deposition was a huge success.
Now it seems like they want to renege on a public hearing. Let's go to the issue of him saying that he was either high or drunk when he sent the WhatsApp message. He was, quote, out of his mind. So he doesn't even know if the text was sent, doesn't remember sending the text, doesn't even know if the text is real, which I'd like to see the evidence that it was tampered with. But he can remember with certainty that his father wasn't there. But he was out of his mind, but he did remember that part of that text. Does that sound credible to you? Doesn't sound very credible to me.
No. And I think that the American people can read the transcript and make a common sense decision and determination on whether or not the president's son was being truthful. Look, when he had to play the drug card, he played the drug card. When he had to play the Russian disinformation card, he played that card. With respect to the text, we've all seen the text, and their texts are all over the board where he says, I had to give my father half my income. There are other texts where he admitted to being involved with the Chinese spy chief for the whole country of China. So he knew he was committing wrongdoing in the text. But when we press him on the text, his lawyer would say, well, we don't believe that these texts are legitimate. We believe that the laptop was compromised. And then when there was no doubt that he sent the text, he would say, well, I was high, or I sent that text to the wrong person. You don't understand the meaning of that text. We're like, well, explain it to us. Well, I was high, but I know my dad wasn't sitting beside me when I sent that WhatsApp message, but I was so high. So he played the drug card a lot. They played the Russia card a lot. But I think the American people see in this transcript that the Biden family have been lying about their involvement and the amount of money they've taken in from China from day one. So we've proven that the family was influence peddling. We've proven that Joe Biden was lying to the American people from day one when he said he wasn't involved and his family didn't get any money from China. Now what we're trying to do is go to the next phase, have the public hearing, bring all the associates in, and let everyone see everyone's side of the story and make a determination. But at the end of the day, we're going to try to hold this family accountable. We're going to try to have referrals. We're going to try to identify the people in the deep state that were part of the cover-up. Because remember, in addition to the Biden financial crimes, we also have the cover-up by the deep state actors. So we're trying to hold everyone accountable. We're trying to wrap this up. And I think that the deposition with Hunter Biden and the transcribed interview with Jim Biden were huge successes.
Chairman Comer, thank you for sharing that with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.